One of the projects was when I was working at American Express, and my objective was to bring in all the paid advertising in-house and see how we could actually make the performance more efficient by reducing the spend. By analyzing more data, I realized that actually a lot of the acquisition cost we could reduce by targeting current customers. So instead of going out and getting new customers, we could tap into the current customers and ask them to recommend their friends or somebody that they know. Because by doing that, we realized that the conversion rate was much higher. And because it was higher, it was cheaper for us to acquire. We actually set up a whole new team dedicated to loyalty. And we were focusing more about the current customer and explaining them more about why they should be recommending somebody that they know and how they were getting more points for that. And actually, we've reduced a lot of our spend by acquiring customers through existing customer. Another project that I'm quite proud of is working at Prenetics, which has been my recent role. I started in Prenetics when they were still a startup, and while I was still with the company, it went into IPO. So we've gone from a very high hyper growth stage and then moved into, once we went into IPO, obviously had to scale down the hyper growth, but we had to obviously still grow with more efficiency. So the objective obviously very much changed, but still it's very interesting how strategy had to change from going from when we were first startup and then going into more of an efficient growth. One of the projects I worked on was at Unilever. And again, Unilever is a company which is obviously very established. Most people probably be using 10 of our products at the same time. So the challenge was, how do we grow when people already using us? So the challenge was more about how do we stop people from switching to our competitors? So basically what we were going to look into is, how do we get more market share? And the idea was to use technology and something to do a little bit more innovative, so which was beyond just buying, for example, a toothpaste. So what we did is came up with creating a digital dentist. So basically the plan was, how do we give access to dentistry across the globe? Because a lot of the markets where we were selling our products are markets like Indonesia or Thailand. So, how do we get access to people who live in rural areas to actually give them access to a dentist? So the idea was, because in those markets, a lot of people have mobile phones, they all have internet. So what we created was a digital dentist where they basically could go onto the app, they could chat to, it was all machine learning, obviously, to start with. So they had some questions, there were some answers. And then at the end of it, if they actually did want to talk to a dentist, we could actually connect them to one of their local dentists through the app. And that way, we could actually help people to do preventative measures instead of actually already going to the dentist when they had a problem. Another project that I worked on was at style.com. So style.com was born from the idea that it was part of Conde Nast. And obviously Conde Nast at that time was struggling in terms of going from physical magazines into digital. So the idea was, how do we actually make the magazines shoppable? Because once you're reading Vogue or GQ or something online, it should be really easy that you see a dress and you want to buy it, and it should just be one click and you actually buy. So style.com was actually that platform that facilitated the purchase directly on the magazines. So you were reading an article, you saw the dress you wanted, you could click on it, you could add it to basket, check out, and it would be shipped to you. So I think that was a very clever idea, to go and you take something that is offline and you bring it online. And we actually had a lot of data, because we had a lot of data on the subscribers, what they like, their interests. So we used all of that to do very targeted advertising, but also, facilitate everything in one place. The most challenging project was Shiseido, and I worked on Shiseido when I was in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, a lot of the brands are not e-commerce because in Hong Kong, everybody likes to go to the mall. That's where everybody purchases their items. So when COVID started, obviously Shiseido stopped having a lot of footfall into the stores. Nobody was going out. So they decided, okay, how do we obviously save the business? So the idea and the proposal was obviously to go online and go e-commerce. So my team helped Shiseido about, setting up their website, but also I think the biggest challenge was to actually convince the business that they needed an e-commerce, that they had to be present there. And again, how do we actually then put an impact on what we were doing online and how can we actually track it to the offline? Because the footfall was still very important for Shiseido. So, we had to come up with some very innovative campaigns in order to prove to the business that, okay, having a presence online, they might not necessarily buy a lipstick online, but they were still coming into the store. Upscale the whole team. We had to educate the whole marketing team in Shiseido about analytics, about how digital really works, because it's been very focused on store.